welcome to Crime and Coffee. My name's Allison.
And my name's Mike.
And we're coming to you from a little suburb in Florida.
Yeah, we are. And we're married. And we're here to talk about some crimes and go through some stories that appeal to us and find out, really kind of some of the details and some of the, unfortunately, some gory details. I'm not really into all this gory stuff, but...
And I'm fascinated by the gore.
You are?
Fascinated and horrified.
Right, at the same time.
Yes.
Seems like a genre that is dominated by a lot of female interest. So I don't know what it is. Maybe us men are afraid to get into a lot of this details and stuff like this. But all these crimes are committed by us men.
Predominantly men, yes. I wonder why men are more turned off by the gory details. Like, I've always been fascinated by true crime and death and serial killers. Just so fascinated to understand what makes somebody's mind the way it is. And then when I tell you about the stories, you're like, how do you listen to that?
Like, it's just so sad. I try to surround myself with positive things, but there are lots of elements of true crimes where it is fascinating to get into the mindset of these people and where they even came from. Like, you and I are most likely not going to do some kind of
I would
killing.
say 100% not.
Well, I can't say 100% for myself.
I mean, unless it was
know.
Self-defense.
Yeah, right.
But really what it comes down to is people who are fascinated with true crime, they're also saddened by it too. It's not to say that I'm not sad when I'm listening to it, but you say, how does it not affect your day? And it just doesn't.
Right.
I know it exists. It's out there. It's terribly unfortunate, but it's there, and I'm just fascinated by the why.
Yeah. And it might be similar, like last night in bed, I was watching some YouTube and Reddit, and I was watching some fights, like real life fights of people just beating the shit out of each other.
Whereas I can't watch that.
Right. And I can understand that. It's like, why would you want to put yourself through somebody getting beaten? And it was usually a bully getting their what's coming to them for the most part. So it was like a good thing, but yeah, you don't like to see people getting beaten down.
No, I can't stand it.
Whereas, like, and then I put in my head, like, but you like reading about murders and, people getting chopped up and finding out, like, all the details behind that. So that's interesting. But our goal is to pick a story a week. And we're going to go back and forth and find one that interests both of us or one of us, and then kind of go over it and go over the details and see what's what. So meanwhile, our kids are sleeping in the other room. We're just a standard Florida couple here. We enjoy each other's company, I would say, for the most part.
I would say so. And this podcast is also a reason for us to sit together quietly for, maybe an hour while our puppy sleeps with our daughter. And, we could have some peace and quiet and sip some coffee while we talk to you.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing wrong with that. It's kind of a date night.
Exactly.
For us. So thanks for listening to our date night. Anything else to cover?
Not really. No, we're married almost 20 years. We've been together since we were age 16.
Yeah.
So coming up on 25 years of being together. Long
42
time.
42 now?
Yeah, we're 42.
Oh, gosh.
We old.
Yeah, my hips hurt. I'm starting to think about replacements.
No, you're not.
Well, it's in my head. It's not like it's happening imminently, but it's in my head.
Well, I feel pretty damn good.
Well, when I go on vacation, we're talking about going vacation places. It's like, should we go to Colorado and ski, or am I going to be held up for a while in traction? And, I still got to work. So.
Oh, yeah, but you still got to live.
Yeah. So there's a balance. It doesn't have to be skiing. Maybe hiking on like moderate trails.
Yes, but I hate the idea to think, we're 42. We could never ski again because we're old. No, we're not.
Yeah, well, I'll watch other people
So
ski.
we'll just wait and see.
Yeah.
And then you'll hop on board with me and we'll be down the slopes together.
That's the safest way.
And you'll be just fine.
Yeah, I'll just go on the bunny hills and be fine. No worries there.
The bunny hill.
So what got me into this whole genre was Mindhunter on Netflix. You remember that show?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It was about, you remembered all these words or these names. I had to write them down. Ed Kemper, obviously Charles Manson, I know, and David Berkowitz. So I love the mindset side. It was just so fascinating that these FBI people finally decided to sit down with these serial killers and think, okay, how do they think?
And profile them. And at the time, in the 70s, when this was going on, they were not understanding, like, why would you give a second to these pieces of shit monsters?
Right.
Whereas obviously it was a necessary thing to get to solve a crime. So I just think it's really fascinating to see where it all started.
Right. And they did have a profile, white male that didn't have a good relationship with his mother. And that's not every serial killer. And this podcast won't be about all serial killers, or any for that matter, but just trying to get my thought process will be, what happened? Why did this happen originally? And
what brought them to this point.
Right. And maybe some of the gory details, you can cover some of them for me.
Well, I'm just covering the details. If there's gore there, it's the detail.
What if I'm a little scared to go over it?
Well, you're just going to be all right, okay? I'm going to be here with you.
Okay.
Supporting you.
You hold my hand while I read them?
No, you're too far away.
Oh, yeah. Okay. We are about 6 feet away.
Yeah. But I'll send my love through the wavelengths and we'll be just fine.
Okay. I can do it. I can do it with your support.
You can do it. So I'm going to be starting out this week with a story you know nothing about, because we're kind of just going to keep it from each other so that as we're telling it to you, our other person is hearing it. It's fresh. We're hearing it for the first time.
I'm excited. I get to hear a story.
Yeah, exactly. It's like story time.
Yeah.
So hop on board.
All right.
You ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
So you mentioned the serial killer aspect. This is actually a serial killer.
Perfect.
And he is one of the most notorious English serial killers, and his name is John George Haigh.
Okay.
And he is also known as the acid bath murderer. Mm-hmm. So kind of a gory little nickname there.
Instantly reminds me of Breaking Bad.
Absolutely.
Where they had to decompose the bodies and take the acid. I imagine this is the area it's going to.
It is the area where it's going to, yes. Okay. This took place before Breaking Bad. So John George Haigh was born in Stamford, Lincolnshire on July 24th, 1909. And his parents were John Roberts. So
Stamford, Lincolnshire, that's like England?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I know. I'm not very familiar. I've never been to the
not
UK,
yet.
But maybe someday.
Okay.
So his parents were John Robert and Emily Hudson. He grew up in the village called Outwood, and it was in West Yorkshire. So his parents were very, very religious, and they belonged to a sect called the Plymouth Brethren. I think I'm saying that properly.
Anytime you have the word brethren, it's something pretty serious.
Yeah, so this church was very radical. They very much believed in the Bible and that you shouldn't have other forms of entertainment outside the Bible.
Because God is supposed to be number one, basically.
Yes.
And when you read, I've read the Bible, back and forth, and God's supposed to be your one, true thing. You're not supposed to look at other idols as better than God. And maybe they were thinking, if you get entertainment out of other things, then you're looking at them better than God.
Well, that it maybe would be distracting from God.
And that would anger the brethren.
Yes, it would. So basically, you weren't supposed to read things that were, other than entertaining. Yes.
You read the Bible or nothing.
You don't go to sports events. You don't read magazines. You focus on your religion and keep that as the highest.
Just wait to die, and then you go to heaven. Then you're fine. Just don't have fun on earth.
Don't have fun
outside
here.
of the Bible.
Exactly. So there was a lot of fear instilled, too, in this religion. And John's father didn't help with this fear because he had a blue scar on his head, and he told his son that it was put there by the devil because he had sinned, and that if you sin, the scar will also appear on you, and all will see that you are a sinner. So John grew up very fearful of this, of having this blue mark appear on his forehead that the world now knew, I am a sinner.
Well, I'll tell you what, he's sinning talking to his son because no devil put that on there. He put it on himself by doing something stupid, I would imagine.
Well, sure. Or maybe it was just a birthmark or something like that.
Oh,
Who
okay.
knows?
Yeah, got it.
But, he knew that himself, I'm sure, and was lying to his child just to put the fear of God so that he kept him on the straight and narrow. And it was very isolating, too. He did not have very many friends because, again, that could be distracting. There are stories that he built a 10-foot fence around their yard so that the outside sins would be kept away from their family.
So just 100% nut jobs.
Just very isolating.
Okay.
He described his childhood as bleak and lonely. And, it was just causing a lot of turmoil in his life, and to the point that he said he had recurring nightmares as he was growing up.
He's basically in solitary confinement. I'm sure his parents weren't the warmest of people.
Right.
Probably always, wondering and warning about different things because there's, in heavy religions, there's a lot of guilt and things of that nature, and you just decide you're not good enough. So I'm sure that was a lot of stress on a little kid. And
yeah, exactly. And it wasn't that they were abusive. It was just more psychologically isolating and just, growing up with a lot of fear to the point that he's starting to have these reoccurring nightmares, according to his stories. And this nightmare as a child was about a forest of crucifixes that would turn into trees and drip with blood. He would see a man collecting the blood in a cup, but before he would see the man drink the blood, he would wake up. That was the dream he would continuously have as a child. And later, as an adult, when he was caught with the things that he did that I'll tell you about, he had told the police that these dreams made him believe that he needed blood to live. And it was widely reported that John's childhood ambition was to become a vampire. Some children, they want to be police officers. They want to be astronauts, baseball players. Well, John, he wanted to be a vampire.
Yeah, that's cool. It's different.
To each their own. But, as he got older and, a little bit more aware of what was going on in the world and his surroundings, around age 10, 11, he started to see that he was doing things that were not so truthful, and this blue mark was not appearing. So he was getting a little wise to his father's little jig there.
Yeah, well, you start to say, well, I lied, and so far, no blue mark. I coveted my neighbor's wife because, I don't get to see people, but I looked over this 10-foot fence, and my neighbor's wife's kind of hot, and so far, no blue mark.
But he was only 10 or 11, so maybe he wasn't admiring the neighbor's wife.
Okay.
But he was reading things that maybe weren't in, his
unpure.
father's eye. Exactly, unpure. And beginning as he got older to push the rules a little bit more, and still no blue mark. So he was getting a little bit wise to the fact that maybe it was maybe one of two things. Maybe God just didn't care about him enough to put the blue mark there, or maybe his dad was lying to him, one of the two things. But, either way, he started to become wise. So as he grew older, he became into music. Some things said that his father pushed him into classical music and the piano. Others said that he actually enjoyed it. He got a scholarship to his grammar school, and then he was also a choir boy at his church. And, really, he was well-spoken, well put together, wasn't an unruly child by any sense of, the word, but maybe in his parents' eyes, he was falling out of line a little bit. But the funny thing is, the school where he had gotten the scholarship to, which was Queen Elizabeth Grammar School in Wakefield, that same school also produced another serial killer who happened to kill 3 people.
I wonder if they have them up in their halls now.
I don't know. Maybe their pictures are there.
Yeah.
Do not become this person, these people. Stephen Griffiths was that student that also came from that school. So then again, like I said, he moved on to be a choir boy at Wakefield Cathedral. A lot of people said he was very brainy, but a bit of a loner, which I think, as you grow up secluded because of your parents, you don't really know how to interact with other children. So I think that was just a consequence of his upbringing. But then as he finished school, he became apprenticed to a firm of motor engineers. That didn't work out so well. At age 21, they caught him dipping his fingers into the cash box. So he was quickly canned from that position.
Still no blue mark from that?
No blue mark.
Okay.
Stole the cash, no blue mark. Like I said, he was well groomed. He was confident and charming. He impressed many women too. He was kind of a ladies' man. So as he was age 25, he met a woman named Beatrice, also called Betty Hammer. She was 21. Betty Hammer. That's a name, one. Right?
Yeah, it is. Wow.
I like it.
Yeah, like she could have been a wrestler or something.
Yeah, she could have been a rapper.
Yeah.
Betty Hammer.
Betty Hammer, what up? Here
Coming
we go.
to you from
1,
Yorkshire.
2. Check.
check 1, 2.
We're going to murder this crowd.
No, Betty was not a murderer.
Right, okay.
So she just unfortunately fell into the, charm of John. And at age 21 on her end, 25 on his end, they became married on July 6, 1934. Word on the street was that they only knew each other for about 4 months before they got married. I think John was really in a hurry to want to get married so that he could get out of his parents' house and escape their oppressive, in his words, their oppressive household. So John and Betty got married, and it was very quick, and it didn't last long. During this time, his new adult life was now pressuring him to make money. He's out of his parents' house. He's married. He's got to pay the bills.
Yeah.
Exactly. He's got to provide. So, he needed to make more money. So he decided to start his own business. And it wasn't necessarily the most honest business. He was forging vehicle documents.
That was so much easier back in the day.
Yeah, well, there wasn't the internet and, you know, all that.
Checks the internet that can, like, check where you were.
Tie you back to things.
Yeah, exactly. Look at the history. Like, I was watching Catch Me If You Can with Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks, and, like, it was so much easier to fake documents back then with checks and different passports and stuff, whereas now it's like, they scan something and you're not legit and you can't go.
You're there. Yeah. There's so many things that, pertain to that. So, despite the lack of internet, he was caught. And in 1934 of November, so just shortly thereafter getting married, he got married in July. This is November. He's now put into prison for 15 months. Well, Betty, at this point, found out that she was pregnant with their daughter.
Beatrice, what are you going to do?
Yeah, poor Beatrice, alone, pregnant, and, questioning this relationship that she's kind of jumped into, and she didn't feel so good about it. So she decided she was going to put their baby up for adoption and divorce John. So
Wow.
I think their marriage only lasted maybe 4 months.
Jeez.
Yeah, so it was pretty quick. And then in this time, his family also cut ties from him. He was an only child, so this is their only son. They're cutting ties. They don't want to be associated with this,
He's an embarrassment.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
the brethren. Yeah.
So he's released from prison now. He's a newly single man. He started a dry cleaning business. So it's kind of funny. He goes from doing sketchy things and then jumping into a legit business. Well, it was becoming successful, but sadly it didn't last very long. His business partner was tragically killed in a motorcycle accident, and that basically crumbled the business. So now we're in 1936. In his late 20s, he decides he's going to move to London. And in this time, he meets this man around his age. His name was William McSwan. And William McSwan, his parents were very wealthy. They owned a lot of amusement arcades, amusement parks. I think that it was referred to as amusement arcades, which I think was like an amusement park.
Yeah, to different games and things.
Yeah, exactly. So he meets William, and William's parents end up employing John. So John's doing various tasks for them, and he's chauffeuring them. He's also repairing some of their arcade games and things like that because he kind of has like an engineerish background. Mm-hmm. So he's doing this, and he's getting closer to William, but at the same time, he's very jealous of William because William comes from a wealthy family, and he sees the things that money can buy and the power it can give you. So he's working for the McSwans, but at the same time, he's starting to move into shady dealings again. He couldn't stay on the straight and narrow, so now he's working under a fake name. He's calling himself William Cato Adamson, and he's selling fraudulent stock shares from the estates of dead clients at below market rates. So he's doing this, but he flubs up. And one of his clients, from one of the things I read, he had letterhead and spelled one of the cities of his offices incorrectly. So the guy caught onto this, and lo and behold, he gets himself in trouble again.
If you're selling bad stocks, you got to spell everything correctly.
Yeah, apparently the name of the city was Guildford. No D there, but he placed a D. Guildford.
Okay.
So now he's age 28, and he's buying himself 4 years of prison time. So back in the slammer. So now he's got 4 years to think about things. And it's dawning on him that his biggest mistake is leaving his fraud victims alive in order to report these crimes.
That is if you're going to commit a crime, make sure everybody that sees it is dead.
Yeah, you don't want anyone snitching on you.
Right. Even if they, plead and beg and everything, get rid of them.
So 4 years will give you some time to cook up ways to dispose of your witness.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. So he would spend his time in the prison library studying the work of a French murderer, Georges Haigh. And George would dissolve his victims in sulfuric acid. So this was very appealing to John. He thought, no body, no crime.
I mean, it's a good thing to have education for our jail systems, but probably not education towards committing other future crimes.
You would think they would try to shut the books on that.
Right.
Maybe do some
Space.
sort of or a potential job opportunities for when you get out of prison.
Right.
Different trades.
Just different trades and skills.
Yeah, but not how to get rid of your victims.
Right.
Yeah, so he's realizing that this is actually something he could see himself doing, because if you have no body, how could you be committed of a crime?
True.
So John begins using glass jars from the prison kitchen, and he's bringing in dead field mice from, his time outside at the prison. So he's using small quantities of acid that he took from the tinsman shop, which, I'm not quite sure why they're giving.
Well, luckily I'm a master tinsman.
Are you?
Yeah, it's one of my little hobbies.
Have you been hiding this from me?
Yeah, well, it's not something you talk about often. It's not like you go to the bar and say, hey, guys, my tinsmanship has really been increasing this month.
It's very prolific.
Yeah. So it turns out you probably need some hydrochloric or some kind of acids in order to shape and mold the tin, I would imagine, maybe.
Apparently you do.
Yeah, so I'm not an expert, but yeah, that's probably
the
something.
acid was there in the tinsman shop.
Okay.
And it was specifically sulfuric acid.
Perfect.
And so he's doing his own little experiments and putting the sulfuric acid in these glass jars and placing the field mice in them.
No, from like high school, sulfuric acid is nice because you can put it in glass or plastic and nothing happens. It's totally safe.
I would think it would dissolve plastic.
I don't think it does.
Really?
Yeah, I think it only dissolves bones and skin and soft tissue type
Interesting.
stuff.
Okay. Well, he chose glass. Maybe that's all he had available.
Right. Yeah, that's probably popular then.
Things were limited supply-wise at the prison.
Yeah.
So from one of the stories I had heard, there were 3 jars and he would do various experiments, see how quickly this small little field mouse would dissolve. And then he would think in his head, how much quantity of acid and how much time would I need on a much larger scale.
To make human porridge.
Say a human. Yes, exactly. So now he's released from prison. It's 1940. And quickly he landed himself back in jail another 21 months. I'm not entirely sure at this time. Oh, he was stealing. Somebody mentioned it was breaking and entering. Either way, bought himself another 21 months of jail time. So during this sentence, he's also trying to figure out ways of making a little income. So he and his select inmates would go to the mail room very quickly early in the morning when the mail would come in. And they would take some of the fellow prisoners' mail from their families and basically sell it to them on like a ransom type of deal just to make some money. So quickly the prison finds out about this. They put the kibosh on it. But either way, he's always cooking up ways to make some cash.
Stupid ways.
Yeah, he's one of those wants to get rich quick and not on the honest way of doing it. So now he's released from this sentence and he became a salesman for a firm in Crowley until 1944. Again, he bounces back from doing things honestly to doing things not so honestly. So now he's on the honest way. But now he's hanging out in the pub one night and he bumps into his previous employer, William McSwan. And he knows now that William is working for his parents, Donald and Amy. He's collecting rent from various tenants of the properties they own. And he sometimes does like a ride along with William and he sees how much money he's making collecting from his parents. And again, he's starting to become a little bit more jealous again. But either way, their friendship is rekindled. They're spending much more time together. He's spending time with his family, getting to know them more and more. And so at this time, he had decided to rent a small basement workshop. And the address of the workshop was 79 Gloucester Road. This is where he decided he was going to work on his quote-unquote inventions. I'm not entirely sure what, these inventions were. But regardless...
Well, he's a guy that's always thinking.
He's always
got an enterprising
thinking, yes.
mind. He's probably thinking of different things and different ways to make money, and that's needs a place at 79 Gloucester to figure out all these little
exactly.
things.
So his workshop had been equipped with some 40-gallon drums, a rubber apron, some wellies, and a gas mask. Those are some kind of sketchy things.
I don't know what wellies are.
Wellies are Wellingtons, the like waterproof.
Like beef Wellington? Like food?
No.
Okay.
The boots.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
wellies. It's pretty rainy over there in England, so you got to protect those feet.
Yeah.
So, during this time when he's got this basement workshop, he's also gaining more and more of William's trust. And they're hanging out one night. It's September 9th, 1944. And they decide to take a trip over to John's workshop. I don't know, maybe William said, hey, or maybe John told William, come see some of my inventions.
So he's in like his 40s at this time, probably. I mean, he was like 20 in the 30s, I think. So he's up in age. He's not like youngster. He's like 30 something.
Well, are you able to do some math? He was born in 1909, and this is 1944.
Yeah, that's 30s 1944 minus 1909, so 35.
Okay, so John's about 35 at this point. He brings William back to his basement workshop, and sadly, he decides to smash William's head in with a lead pipe.
Probably from all that, just, he's probably talking about getting money from his parents and like, yeah, things are going pretty well, at the old arcade. And, my parents, just look at this $2,000 check they just gave me, which at that point is $50,000. And, this guy's just like, shit, I can't do this. I hate this guy because he keeps on having this thing over me. And instead of just being jealous like most of us, decides to smash his head in.
Exactly. He took it a little too far. And
I knew this guy was going to be the first victim. First, I thought maybe the wife, the wife that he was married to, but now this guy, the jealousy. It makes sense.
It's the money. He's very driven by money.
Yeah.
So he sees this, he wants it, and he's going to take it no matter how he can. He does it. So he smashes poor William's head in. And in this time, he also says that he slit his throat, got a mug, took some of the blood from his neck.
Oh, the vampire thing.
The vampire thing is coming back. And when you're dead, your blood is not pumping, so you got to kind of coerce the blood to a turn up, get the blood to come into this mug, and he claims he drank this blood. So after allegedly drinking this blood, he put William's body into a 40-gallon drum, covered it with sulfuric acid. And then he describes in his confession that when the body was finally submerged in the liquid acid, the fumes, there was a lot of breakdown happening very quickly, bubbling. It's like a cauldron,
Yep.
Apparently the fumes were a little overwhelming to him. Some stories said he passed out and came to. Others said he just fled the building, went outside, got some fresh air. But, your first time dissolving a human in sulfuric acid you might learn some things.
Sure.
Nobody does selling better than Shopify. Shopify is the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret, with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts go abandoned and way more sales going through. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. On the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout that Skims uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period for 3 months at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
Well, he learned that it was pretty toxic.
Didn't plan for that.
No. He later covered the drum, he went home to sleep, and left his former employee and friend to dissolve into liquid sludge. 2 days later, he took William's body, which had mostly dissolved, into a thick black sludge and poured it down a drain in the road behind his workshop in the middle of the night. Yeah. So, of course, William is working for his parents. His parents are wondering, where the hell is William?
William is no more. He's black porridge.
Sadly, William is now black sludge. So John, of course, needs to think of what to tell William's parents, Donald and Amy. So
probably wasn't thinking about this. I think it just kind of hit him. It seemed like something that he wasn't planning necessarily that night.
Right. Yeah. Maybe he was kind of learning as he went.
Yeah, and he was probably looking forward to this first victim just to figure out who it's going to be. And it's like, hey, why not William here? The guy that, makes me, even though he's my friend. Yeah, it's somebody I get pissed off about hearing all the stories, and I'm done listening to these stories.
And who knows how planned it even was? Maybe that night they were just having pints in the pub, and he said, maybe I should bring him down to my workshop and just do this.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
It's pretty disgusting. So now he's got to figure out what to tell William's parents, Donald and Amy. So they fully well knew that their son, William, did not want to go and be drafted to war. World War II was happening at this time. He was very fearful of being drafted to the war. So John took advantage of this and said that William had fled to Scotland to avoid being drafted. And they bought it. And to reinforce the story, he would write them postcards and letters posing as William. Huh. And during this time, now Donald and Amy need somebody to cover William's work.
Nice.
Yeah. So now he's doing William's job. He's collecting the rent from the tenants, covering the amusement parks, all that jazz. He also apparently is living in William's house. So basically just slid right into his life. But now the war is coming to an end, and Donald and Amy aren't understanding why William hasn't returned. Where is he? So John tells them he's coming home for the night secretly. Please keep this under wraps. He wants to see you guys one at a time. He doesn't want to cause attention to this. It's going to be at night. He's coming to my workshop. So Donald, you're going to come first to see your son. So John brings Donald to the workshop, and sadly, the pretty much exact same thing happens to him that his son,
Well, this is a flashback to, hey, you know what? It's not a crime if I kill everybody that's involved in it or knows about it.
Exactly. He's erasing them bit by bit.
Right. The problem is that you'll eventually have to erase everybody, probably.
Anyone that's associated with that person.
Right.
Unless you're living under a cave, rock, or whatever, people know you. They're going to wonder, where the hell are they?
And this is one of those instances where, folks, I'm talking to you out there, if something just doesn't seem right, like it's like, well, why would my son come to visit late at night at a workshop?
Right?
It's
sketchy.
Odds are there's probably something up. So
Right.
question yourself.
But, he did leave the country to avoid being in the war, so maybe he wanted to keep it under wraps.
No, they wanted to see their son so bad. I'm not calling, I
Right.
get it, but yeah.
They were missing their son, desperate to see him. So Donald follows John over to his 79 Gloucester Road workshop and sadly meets the same fate that his son met, which was being smashed in the head with a lead pipe.
Wow, exact same.
Exact same, yes. So
Dad's gone.
Yeah, Dad is now gone. He places Donald by... Oh, and I forgot to mention, he's changing up some of his supplies. At this point in time, he has a steel bathtub in his workshop. So not necessarily the 40-gallon drum, also now a steel bathtub. So he places him not in the bathtub, but near the bathtub. Now he goes to retrieve Mother, Amy, and brings her to the workshop. Again, poor Amy gets smashed in the head with a lead pipe. Whether or not she came into the workshop and saw that her husband was there dead, we don't know. But either way, she, got knocked in the head.
Fate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now he is disposing of not one body, but two. So he thinks in his head, how can I get the acid to dissolve their bodies more quickly? Maybe if I chop them up, it'll go faster.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So he has this workbench in his shop. He takes them over to the table and begins to dismember their bodies and places them into the bathtub, covers them with sulfuric acid. I did read in one place that he also added hydrochloric acid. I don't know why. And the other thing is that you couldn't easily obtain these things. So he had sketchy ways of doing that too. He pretended that he needed them for different things he was doing.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to get a ton of acid really safely through regular channels.
On Amazon, they're not going to just put a drum of sulfuric acid on your front porch on Gloucester Road.
Right, exactly.
So he had
Certainly
to do
not
it.
Prime 2-day delivery.
No, especially not Prime. So he had to do that in sketchy ways. But for whatever reason, he also added the hydrochloric acid, and their bodies were left to dissolve for a few days. During this time now, he's got to wrap up Donald and Amy's affairs. He's meeting with their landlady and telling them that the couple had moved to America. He had all their mail forwarded to him. He had Mr. McSwan's pension check. Now he's posing as William McSwan, who is sadly deceased. And he forged a power of attorney and made about £6,000 to £8,000 selling their property. And from what I read, it's equivalent to about £250,000 in 2020.
$250,000?
Pounds.
Oh.
They're in England.
Right. So what are pounds?
I think it's pretty similar
to one-ish? Okay.
I think so, yeah. So now he takes this money that he's made and moves into a very ritzy hotel, the Onslow Court Hotel in Kensington. By 1947, though, he's rapidly going through the money. Not only is the, hotel he's staying in very expensive, but he's also developed a gambling habit. So he's now running out of this money and he needs to find a way to get more. Is he going to do it a good way or a not so good way?
Probably not so good way.
Not so good way. So at this time, he no longer has his basement workshop on 79 Gloucester Road. He's moved to a new location where he can bring his new victims.
Things are on the up and up. Things are going well. The enterprise is running just as he thought.
Exactly. So he's moved over to a small space outside of London. I actually saw videos of this location. It was a little storefront type of place on 2 Leopold Road in Crawley, Sussex. He moved all of his supplies to his new space, and he felt ready to go. And now at this point, he is pretending to show interest in a house that Dr. Archibald Henderson, who's age 52, and his wife Rose, age 41, are selling. So he knows that this couple has a lot of money, and he's going to pretend that he's looking to buy their property. He also swindled his way into becoming his affable self, and
probably well known in the area a little bit, just based on having money and being at certain things.
Yeah, and in this Onslow Court Hotel where he was staying, obviously it's expensive. There's a lot of ritzy people that are living there also.
Yeah, you think somebody has a lot of money, so they're trustworthy.
Exactly, exactly. So, in pretending to want to buy this property, he's also gaining their trust and friendship, and they decide to have him at their housewarming party. Rose wanted him to play the piano for their guests. So he's at their house, he's at the party, and he sees that they have a .38 caliber Webley revolver, and he decides to snatch it. So he snatches the Henderson's revolver, and on February 12th, 1948, he drives Mr. Henderson over to his new workshop under the guise of showing him a new invention. He's, trying to entice Mr. Henderson into thinking maybe they can partner together in a business opportunity. So that was the ruse that he used to get Mr. Henderson over to this small little workshop. So on arrival, he takes Mr. Henderson's own gun that he snatched from his house and shot him.
Oh, man.
So he's moved now from, his first 3 victims were a lead pipe. Now he's using a revolver.
No, it's the first ones. I get it. I don't get it. I get his reasoning, his fucked up reasoning, that he's trying to just get rid of the evidence and get rid of people that would be looking for people. Now this one, it's like he's running out of money, so he's got to find other victims to get money from. I don't. It's this one. It's almost like a friend. Like maybe he's against having friends, maybe because of his isolation in the past, and anybody who gets close to him is all of a sudden,
Well, clearly he wasn't, mentally close to these people, because how can you hurt your friend, But maybe the fact that he was raised not having friendships, he doesn't maybe know how to have a friend.
Yeah.
Because you don't kill your friend. Right. I've come to find that.
And he's so money hungry. That's the motivation behind everything.
I think he's so blinded by wanting this lavish lifestyle that he doesn't care what he needs to do to get it.
Okay.
So he shoots poor Mr. Henderson in the back of the neck or
Archibald.
head. Poor Archibald. He kills him instantly, strips him of any valuables he might be having on his person, and basically just leaves him there. And he decides to skip a step. He doesn't dismember him. Now, of course, he needs to worry about Rose, because Rose is going to wonder where her husband has gotten to.
Yep.
So time to move on to poor Rose. So he tells Rose that Mr. Henderson had fallen ill and that she needs to come to the workshop to assist. So he brings Rose to the workshop, and again, same thing.
Gun?
Yep. So he places her in a drum of sulfuric acid. He places Mr. Henderson in a drum of sulfuric acid. Again, he strips her of any kind of valuables she might have, whether it be rings, whatever, or whatever kind of jewelry. And now, of course, he's back in the same position where he was before. I've got to inform people that are tied to these folks.
The estate and everything.
Yeah, and also family members who might be wondering where they are.
Forge the new power of attorney.
Exactly. So again, though, he leaves their bodies to dissolve. He empties it in the yard, which in this case, I had watched a YouTube video where this one was, there were properties right there nearby. So, he would do everything in the middle of the night so that people weren't there to witness him. But there's not really many places to pour this acid.
Any drain, I guess.
Yeah, but in this case, he didn't do a drain. He poured it in the backyard of 2 Leopold Road.
Ridiculous.
And
I guess back in the day, there probably wasn't a ton of drains. So,
yeah, I don't know. But his
especially
first workshop, he would put it in a drain, a manhole.
Yeah.
But in this case, he just dumped it in the yard. And I remember he would put it in the backyard of like a neighbor's hedges. and that neighbor couldn't understand why his hedges were dying.
That's like so poor
careless,
planning.
right?
Yeah. Dig a hole and then put it underneath the ground or
Yeah,
something.
so I think at this time he was just getting sloppy.
Yeah.
Well, I guess he was sloppy all along. But so anyway, now he needs to figure out, what to do about the Hendersons and their people. So Rose's brother is sniffing around, and he's prepared to go to the police at this point. But John decides to lie and say that the Hendersons fled to South Africa because Mr. Henderson had done an illegal abortion and needed to get away. So that was, his protective cover there.
Wow.
But again, he's selling their properties and possessions. He acquired about 8,000 pounds at this time. And, now he's back to living comfortably at the Onslow Court Hotel. And now at this point, we had said, how old was John?
35.
Okay, yeah. So now he's in his late 30s, and the money from the Hendersons is only lasting about a year. So now he's moving on to his next and final victim.
Well, because he couldn't inherit the state because that son was still there. So
it was
I'm sure he inherited it.
a brother, Rose's brother.
Oh, the brother. Okay,
Yeah.
so they still had some people, and he probably wasn't able to do the same power of attorney stuff, and
Right.
So he only got to sell what they had on them, and maybe some checks and cash that they had in the house.
Yeah, so he did get 8,000 from them.
Yeah.
But it did say he did sell their properties and possessions.
Oh,
so I
wow.
don't know.
Okay.
But so now he's moving on to his last and final victim. Again, he's living in the Onslow Court Hotel. There's a lot of rich people there. John is very good at looking at the part. He is well put together, well dressed. People like him. And also he's a lot younger than the other people that are living in this hotel because they're old money, probably more in their 60s or so. He's only in his late 30s. They're very intrigued by him.
Yeah, he's the affable guy and like, hey, how'd you make your money? He can make up any story that he wants. Oh, I did the arcade thing for a bit and then, whatever, this and that. And the big stories that everybody's just listening to every word because they're living vicariously through him.
And he loves this.
Sure.
He wants to be the rich guy. Hence the reason why he's done all the things that he's done.
Oh, we need to set you up with our daughters,
Yeah, exactly. So he's, having dinners with a woman named Olive Duran Deacon. She's 69 years old. She was a wealthy widow of a solicitor, John Duran Deacon. And again, fellow resident of the Onslow Court Hotel. She had lived in the hotel for about 6 years, and he had lived there for 4 years at this time. So they'd known each other for 4 years at this point, and you get to trusting people. So during their dinners, when they'd be chatting and whatnot, Olive had told John that she kind of was thinking of her own invention. She was trying to come up with an idea of like acrylic nails. Mm-hmm. And she knew that John had considered himself an inventor, a businessman, whatever.
Deals with chemicals.
Yeah. So, of course, now they're talking about putting a business together. And he tells her, well, come on down to my workshop and we'll talk. We'll go over this paperwork. So sadly, this happened on Valentine's Day, February 14th. Olive had told John again about these artificial fingernails. They hope they could improve their idea and make it marketable. So John invites Olive to Leopold Road and they go. Well, actually, that conversation happened on Valentine's Day. They didn't actually go to the workshop until February 18th, 1949. He brings Olive down to the workshop and shot her in the back of the neck with a revolver. Again, same revolver that he had stolen and shot the Hendersons.
Well, that's been a pretty useful revolver.
Exactly. He strips her of her valuables, including a Persian lamb coat that she had been wearing, and then he placed her into an acid bath, just like he had all of his other victims. In this time, he had gotten some blood on her Persian coat, so he decided to also take that to the dry cleaner, have it cleaned. Because Lord knows you don't want blood on your Persian coat.
No.
So, of course, Miss Olive Duran Deacon is living in this hotel amongst many other people.
Yep.
So where the hell did she go?
Right.
Of course people are going to wonder. And again, how was he so silly to think no one would notice her missing?
I think it starts to become more and more of a game where they almost want to be caught and they're daring, doing more and more daring and stupid things on their part to be caught.
Right.
Until it's too late.
And this was considered a much less thought out and hurried murder. Mm-hmm. But regardless, he pops Olive into the 40 drum gallon and goes and has a 3-course meal back at the hotel. So, of course, the people that live in the hotel are wondering, where is she? And one person in particular was close to Olive. This is Mrs. Constant Lane. She was a retired woman just like Olive. She was living at the hotel. She's deeply concerned, and she knew that Olive was going with John.
Yeah.
So she said to him, "Don't you know where she is? She told me that you were taking her down to your factory. I must do something about that." So John thinks, if I go with her to the police, maybe I'll look more trustworthy, because what person who killed someone would go to the police? You know, that would just be silly.
Yep.
So he and Miss Constant Lane go down to the police, and something about him just didn't sit well with one of the police people. And so on, let me get my bearings here. So this is policewoman Sergeant Lambourne. She was immediately suspicious. So on that Monday, Scotland Yard's record office was contacted, and John's criminal record was revealed. And she saw he had been in prison multiple times. He was not a trustworthy person. He was capable of doing very shady things. So her antenna went up, and she didn't like the sniffs of John. So on February 26th...
So he was using his regular name.
Yes,
Okay.
he was never changing his name at this point.
Got it, yeah.
The only time he changed his name was when he was doing the whatever dealings of the dead people,
Right.
their properties and whatnot.
Yep.
So on Saturday, February 26th, the police visited John's workshop. And basically, they just busted through the door and went in. And there they discovered the scene. You know,
The jig is up.
The jig is up, definitely.
Wow, good for her.
These gallon drums, there's the bathtub, they're seeing these rubber aprons and gas masks, and they also found a lot of other things. They found a revolver, the revolver, the Henderson's revolver that killed 3 people.
We're just going to attach him to the Hendersons.
Exactly. They also found the dry cleaning bill, because, you know, he had taken Olive's coat to be cleaned, which never looks good.
So the dumbass boiled the Hendersons, but not their gun. That's the evidence that you needed to not be attached to that.
Well, he still needed that gun.
Right. Well, you can buy a gun. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, no, he wasn't going to do that. He had a free gun in his hands. He was just going to continue to go about his stupidity and selfish ways and think that he was invincible. I think it was this idea that he was not going to get caught.
Yeah.
I think he truly believed that because he was dissolving these people, he was not going to get caught. Mm-hmm. But thankfully he was. So at 4:15 p.m. on Monday, February 28th, Detective Inspector Albert Webb waited for John to return to Onslow Court. He took John to the police station, and John confessed. He stated, "I have destroyed her with acid." He didn't say them. He said her, meaning Olive.
Yeah.
"And you will find her in the sludge that remains at Leopold Road. Every trace has gone. And how can you prove a murder if there is no body?" Well, dumbass, you just admitted to doing it.
Right. We don't have to. You just did.
Exactly. And anyway, so Tuesday, March 1st, a pathologist, Dr. Keith Simpson, went to John's workshop, and immediately they had seen a very incriminating thing. There's blood stains on the walls. There's a hat pin at the bottom of one of the 45-gallon drums that belongs to somebody. They also saw a few gallstones in the yard.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I guess those don't dissolve.
Didn't disintegrate, yeah.
Because if you think about it, there's a lot of acid going on in our own digestive tract, and they don't dissolve. But
Yeah.
regardless, I don't know what a gallstone looks like, but they saw them. They found a full list of collections that they found. It was processed and produced a list that included a 28 pounds of, they said animal fat. Obviously, it was human fat. Part of a foot. So not
Missed that
everything was dissolved.
But at this point, there's no DNA testing in the
No,
40s.
definitely not. There were 2 more gallstones, a full set of dentures. These were taken to Olive's dentist, and he confirmed, yes, these were Olive's dentures. So dumbass doesn't, you're dumping out this drum and dentures are popping out, and you think,
That's fine.
Leave these in the yard.
Throw some dirt on it.
Yeah. So his fate was sealed. They also found pieces of pelvic bone, 2 discs from her lower spine, a handbag, a lipstick container, and a notebook. So this now
Sloppy.
led them to believe, okay, it's not just Olive. This has been done too. So it starts to come out that there's other people involved. So John is now charged with Olive's murder on March 2nd and taken to the Lewes prison. Trial began July 18th, 1949, and it took the jury all of 17 minutes to find him guilty.
Well, anytime the murderer is saying, I did this and I dissolved her and all that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. But he was also hoping that he could be found insane, so he tried to pull that card.
It's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, he was talking about the blood, drinking, and he did some crazy things while he was in prison. I guess he was drinking his own urine at one point. Like, hey, look at me, I'm the crazy guy.
Look, I can piss in my mouth.
I pissed in my mouth.
Hey, guys.
Hey, guys, I drink my own urine. I'm John.
I'm crazy.
I'm crazy. Well, that did not happen. They found him guilty and not to be insane. And I guess right before his execution, Madame Tussauds, is that how it was pronounced?
Yep.
We all know Madame Tussauds, right, Mike?
Yeah. And before this podcast, you said, is that how you pronounce the wax person? I'm like, I have no idea who you're talking about.
You know those wax people.
I've heard of Madame Tussauds, a Madame Tussauds.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, she wanted to form John as one of her wax people. I guess she has a lot of criminal people that she puts into wax figurines, and he was more than happy. He had her come on down, and he was very particular about his wishes. He wanted him to look this way, his hair to be parted that way, and here's my clothes. Put my wax sculpture in these clothes. And actually, she did. So his statue is there.
With his real clothes.
Yes, with his actual clothes.
That's kind of fascinating. I mean, it sucks that you don't want to look at a person like that. You're not looking up to them.
No, not in any way, shape, or form.
It's historical, to some extent.
Yep, exactly. But on Wednesday, the 10th of August, in about a crowd of 500 people that gathered outside the prison.
1949?
Yes.
Still in the 40s here?
Yes.
Yep.
They all gathered outside the prison, and at 9 a.m., he was hung.
Hung?
Yeah.
Wow, good.
So that's the story.
Jeez. See, now those are the situations where the death sentence makes sense. Like you and I were talking about some stuff where it's like, if there's any shred of doubt that somebody may not have done something,
right,
probably not the best time for the death sentence. But this guy is saying, yes, I boiled her, and here's the revolver, and you've got blood on his hands and in his workshop and all those things. I mean, this guy, I'm not I don't know about taking lives and stuff, but this guy definitely needed to not be here anymore, because then otherwise he'd go to jail and learn other methods of doing other things, and maybe researching how to get out of jail and kill. This guy's just such a scumbag.
So in addition to the 6 people that he knowingly killed, he also claimed to have killed 3 other people. They couldn't really prove that this was the case, and maybe at this point in time he wanted more fame and attention, so maybe he lied about doing it, maybe he didn't. I don't know.
Maybe he lied about drinking blood.
Maybe he did.
Yeah.
But regardless, he knowingly killed 6 people, 3 by blunt force trauma and 3 by gunshot wound. Wow. So that is the story of John George Haigh.
Wow, that's unfortunate. I think you did a fine job.
Thank you. It's my first time. You learn things as you go.
Yeah, you sure do. That's I've got some big shoes to fill.
I don't know. My shoes are smaller than yours.
They are. So maybe I don't. Yeah, it'll be fine.
I think you're going to do great too, and I look forward to next week when we hear whatever story that you come up with.
Yeah, I just hope I don't have PTSD from this whole thing.
You're going to be fine. And again, you can lay your head on my bosom and I will comfort you.
Ooh, hey, that's enticing. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Yeah, that makes me look forward to that.
So thank you all for being here and listening to our very first episode of Crime and Coffee, and we hope to see you back next time.
Next week.
Okay.
Toodles.
Bye.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.